gentlemen, hello. Welcome to the Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is my show. Okay. It's enough of that, Warren. Gee, man. It's too early for these stupid shenanigans, Warren. Welcome, everyone, to my channel, to my video. I don't know exactly where you came across the video. Perhaps you found it on my channel over at tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or you just stumbled across it maybe on Twitter, maybe off of my Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes, or maybe, I don't know, you just found it randomly. Whatever the case, thank you very much for coming across it, joining me for my SmackDown Live review, WWE SmackDown Live review, SmackDown that took place on August 7th, 2018. Did I ever tell you that I really like my Johnny Gargano hat? I really, really like it. I like hats in general. You know, when I was, I've had a love affair with hats. I find I have a hat face. You know, there's some people who can pull hats off, any type of hat. I think I'm in that category. There's people who just can't wear a hat properly. I feel like I'm in that category. I've always loved hats. I've been a big hat guy. When I was younger, I would wear hats all the time. My mother would tell me, don't wear hats so much. You're going to lose your hair. You're going to go bald. As if it was a bad thing. I don't see anything wrong with being bald. Unless there's something amongst people who are follically challenged. Perhaps they could provide some insight, but as far as it goes, I mean, I don't see an issue with being bald. I don't see an issue. I mean, it's not as if it's going to happen to me. Look, I mean, check this out. Look, I mean, this is hair, man. I've got a lot of hair. It's thick. It's long. I've got a lot of it. I don't even have a receding hairline. See? This is me right now without a hat. And that's one of the reasons why I like to wear a hat. It's because you know, hair this long is very, you know, can be sometimes a pain to manage. It requires a certain amount of tender loving care. So just plopping a hat on, and you see, like I just did it, you know, tucking my hair strategically into it. It just works. But no, I mean, it's a lot of work to have long hair. And sometimes, you know, I wonder if, you know, bald individuals or people who shave their head, maybe they understand something that I don't, especially in these in these strange economic times. This, you know, this questionable global economic circumstance that we're in right now. You know, the trade wars going on, tariffs being applied to all sorts of goods, inflation going up, you know, a bit of an attack on the middle class currently. Maybe people who actively shave their head or are bald, maybe they, you know, they have the right course to go through these uncertain times. You know, maybe they, you know, they don't have to go to the hairdressers or the barbershop. They just they can skip over any kind of you know, all the numerous hair accoutrements that someone who with long, thick, luscious hair needs to apply. Like, man, I go through conditioner like I go through coffee. And that's a very personal reference. Like, you don't know enough about me to say, oh, wow, that's a lot. But trust me, that's a lot. And then I'm very picky. I'm very specific about the types of pomade I put in my hair. Yes, I wear I pomade. And I mean, and then I go see, yeah, and yes, I go to the hairdresser. I go to the salon. I don't go to a barber shop. I like to take care of my hair. So all of this eventually adds up, right? Your hair becomes an investment. And what is the return on investment on hair? maybe in the 1960s there was a stigma, perhaps, to baldness, male pattern baldness, but today, I have friends who actively just shave their head. They would have full heads of hair, but they just shave it off because it's simpler for them, and it's fashionable. There's no reason why you shouldn't do it. Plus, maintenance levels are very, very low. It's very cost effective. Then what do? You moisturize it? You put some lotion, I guess? Come to think of it, baldness or shaved heads, let's say skin. We'll go with skin. Bare skin heads are probably the most sensible economic decision a grown North American male can do for his wallet, for the economy, for his country. Boy, this is a wrestling show. Just before we go on, a few programming notes. If you're watching this on August the 8th, on the Wednesday that this came out, of course, as many of you know, it's NXT night. NXT, one of the most exciting hours of wrestling that God has allowed, has given us the inspiration to create or have access to. It's tonight. And immediately after SmackDown, if you join me on FightfulSelect.com, I do my 205 Live NXT combination review. That happens immediately after SmackDown, so around 9 p.m. Eastern Time sharp on FightfulSelect.com. What is FightfulSelect.com? I'm glad you asked. FightfulSelect.com is the premium service of Fightful.com, one of the premier combat sports news sites. You can get news on pro wrestling, MMA, boxing. It's all there. The minute that people start punching each other with their fists or kicking each other with their feet, and that's usually how it goes. The minute that happens, it's covered on Fightful.com. And FightfulSelect.com is a service that gives you a whole bunch of extra content to go along with that. I contribute to Fightful Select, very proudly so, I might add. And there's a lot of stuff that you can get there. The first tier 1, is $5 a month. Just $5. $5 will get you loads of content, ladies and gentlemen. You get a bunch of members-only podcasts. You get the Weekender podcast, which is managing editor Sean Ross Sapp's little babykins, little cutie pie, little smoochy smooch, little podcasty thing, where he reviews all the news of the week, and discusses and reviews non-WWE programming, Impact, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, Being the Elite. He reviews that. Goes over the week in news. Like I said, my weekly 205 Live NXT podcast. It's the G1. It's G1 season right now, so I've been doing G1 Climax recaps. The G1 is coming to a close. I've got about maybe 2 left in the bag, but those are there. You can go check those out as well. You get Q&A sessions. You get monthly retro reviews, which is another podcast that I contribute with. Me and Sean, we take a look at an old pay-per-view. We talk about it. We look at it. Does it hold up? Was it good back in the day? Does it hold up today? Or was it just like a sign of the times? Or was it just garbage? Like Hardcore Heaven 95, which is up there. This is one that we've reviewed. We just recently, and our retro review is good, but the show is so bad. You can go take a look at that. We recently just put up TNA Unbreakable, one of TNA Impact's most memorable, famous pay-per-views. It's a great show. It was a fun review to do. Very soon we're going to be releasing SummerSlam 1992. one of my favorite retro reviews that I've done with Sean so far. What am I saying? One of. It is my favorite. So go check that out. You get a whole bunch of content for only $5 a month. You're supporting one of the best wrestling sites out there as well. Just go take a look. Fightfulselect.com. And it's there. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week. And then next week, I'll be back with my Raw and SmackDown reviews. And then it's going to be the go-home week for the pay-per-views, for the WWE pay-per-views. So I'm going to be doing my SummerSlam preview show, predictions show as well. But on top of that, I'm also going to be doing my NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4 prediction show. But flipping the concept on its head, thinking outside the box. I'm going to be doing this with my good pal Danny from the Undisputed Future podcast exclusive, which discusses exclusively the weekly shenanigans of NXT. Danny's going to join me, and we're going to do a prediction show together. And what's going to be cool about this is that's going to be available here on my channel, tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, and it's also going to be available on the Undisputed Future Podcast's channel. Across all good quality and not so quality podcasting apparatus applications. But yeah, no, that's going to be fun. We're going to be trying that out next week. I'm looking forward to it. Danny's a cool guy. He's super smart. I wanted to say sharp and smart, and it came out of sharp. Schmarp. Ugh. All right. It's going to be a busy week for your boy Warren next week. It'll be fun, though. Looking forward to it. Let's talk about SmackDown. I thought it was an okay show. Let me start over. I think August 7, 2018, the 2008 is August 7, 2018 edition of SmackDown. Aside for the main event, it's an overall forgettable show. I don't think anything was standout. I think some things were advanced for not WrestleMania, but for SummerSlam, while others just didn't deliver. They just didn't do anything. Not that they didn't deliver. It was very very bland. Was just there. And a good example of this is Randy Orton's opening segment. Randy Orton comes to the ring, has a microphone, and reminds us what he did to Jeff Hardy. He says he likes watching us squirm. That's one of the reasons he attacked Jeff. He says, I will be so violent. I like it. He says, I will become so violent that you will want to change the channel, but will be unable. Honestly, I am here for violent Randy Orton. If there's one guy who can pull it off convincingly and will make me seethe when he does it, I'm fine with that. And if the earlobe tugging situation from 3 weeks ago is any indication of where Randy wants to go, I am completely all in on this. I hope it just wasn't hype. I hope there's actions that back this up. I don't want Andy to go out. Andy Orton. I don't want Randy to go all hardcore on us. That's not the point. It's not a question of him suddenly pulling out thumbtacks and barbed wire bats, and that's not what I want. But I mean, if he wants to get brutal on the opposition, and you know what the cool thing is. Randy Orton is well known as being a safe worker. Like, he always looks after that's his in-ring reputation, is that he really looks after the other guy he's wrestling with. So if Randy wants to get hardcore and brutal, well, not only he'll do it in a way where it'll be convincing, but will also take care of the other guy, and I appreciate that. I really hope that it's not all hype and that Mr. Orton is about to escalate things as far as you can escalate in the PG-13 era. PG? Why is it PG and not... Is it PG or PG-13? We keep calling it the PG era, but... if it was PG-13, we could sneak a little blood once in a while, couldn't we? I know advertisers don't like blood. But that, you can sneak it in. So basically, he says, I don't get the respect I deserve from you or from the people in the back. And look, I'm going to give you a history lesson. I'm going to give you a Randy Orton history lesson. I'm the youngest world champion in the history of WWE. I've been world champion 13 times. I've won the Royal Rumble. I've won Survivor Series. I've won a whole bunch of events like that. And yet you still don't respect me. And so sometimes you have to take respect. This was a fine promo. A lot of people on Twitter last night were cheering. We're going, wow, what another good fire promo from Randy Orton. It was fine. It was a fine promo. That bit about him being violent had all my attention. But this isn't the same promo as we had, was it last week when he came out to explain himself? That was awesome. This was fine. No more, no less. Don't get me wrong. I'm really happy that Randy Orton is a heel. And if he's going to be a vicious heel, let's make it happen all the time. Next, we have Becky and Charlotte. We're having a segment. Charlotte comes up to Becky and says, look, I apologize. I wasn't trying to ruin your moment. You'd think that at this point the girls would have discussed this at least through text message and didn't wait a week, before bringing the subject up. Becky says, I get it. I know you didn't want to ruin my moment, but you put me in a bad position because on one end, you're my best friend and I want to be happy for you. I'm happy for your win. But on the other end, I wanted Carmella. I wanted Carmella for myself. And that's fine. And, they sort of get on the same page for the tag team match, and they say at some point, we're not Sasha and Bayley, which I thought was a nice little wink to their four horsewomen partners. Now, maybe I'm reading a little too much into it. Maybe. I could be. But if we are to consider... Okay. Do Becky and Charlotte perceive themselves as good, strong friends as opposed to the iffy relationship that Sasha and Bayley had? Now, if that's what they meant by saying we're not Sasha and Bayley, okay. But Sasha and Bayley have patched things up, right? Apparently all that therapy was so good for them. Now they're a tag team. They seem to have put all their differences aside. Apparently now they're ready to move on to great things together. What if that's what that little undertone meant? We're not Bayley and Sasha. We're not such good friends. Maybe we just had a bit of foreshadowing here. A little underhanded. Maybe not either. Regardless, it's fun that they're adding layers to this relationship and that we're understanding if there's eventually a feud or a breakup between them or, like something very visceral that happens. They're setting the stage. They're giving us reasons to understand why this friendship might fall apart because they're both highly competitive women and and their friendship might stand. They won't let their friendship stand in the way to achieving their career goals, I guess, and not in a Mean Girls kind of way, but in a very just competitive. I want to succeed way. This is what I signed up for. This is what I want to do. I like it because it adds layers to their relationship, makes it believable, makes it nuanced. I like the way they're setting things for Becky and Charlotte here. Carmella comes out to join commentary for the match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and the Iconics. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce come out with microphones and they do some word association. Crowd starts chanting boring. You know, I'm a little on the fence when it comes to the audience chanting boring. I really am. I have trouble positioning myself very, very firmly. Like, on one hand, if they're chanting boring, and you're a heel, of course, if they're chanting boring to what you're doing, then there's an argument to be made that, well, this is heel heat. You're doing your job. You're supposed to be eliciting these reactions from the audience. But on the other hand, as a performer, you're supposed to be compelling enough to generate appropriate amounts of heat. And is that what you're doing here? And I don't think that just because you're a heel, it excuses being boring and the audience reacting as such. Like, when was the last time the audience chanted boring during a Miz promo? Or during a Joe promo, or a Kevin Owens promo? So I get it. I understand that it's, you could just see it as heel heat is heel heat, but I'm just thinking the Iconics that I love. I love both Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. Maybe both of them should just they should mix up their act a little bit. And I'm not talking about a repackaging. I'm just saying, maybe move the formula around a bit. Like, not just always come out and do the impersonations, which I personally think the impersonations have run their course. And this little petty mean girl thing. All right, maybe there's another way to go about it. Anyway, what I did like about the presentation is when they start to, they throw some shade at Charlotte, of course, and then they do the same with Becky, literally. Anyway, shade, shadow. They say, the Iconics say, "Where's Becky? We can't see Becky. Where is she? Oh, there she is. There she is. She's just in Charlotte's shadow again. Poor Becky. Always a bridesmaid, never a champion." Ooh, that stings. I like that. It's just poking the bear. I like it. So the match happens. Becky and Charlotte work well as a team from the get-go. Lots of quick tags in and out. Quick attempt for the disarmer by Becky. Charlotte hits a plancha to the Iconics outside. Later on in the match, Becky hits an exploder, flying elbow, and a disarmer. Billie Kay runs in to break it up. Becky tags out to Charlotte, who whiffs a moonsault on both Iconics. She was supposed to take both of them out inside the ring. And man, the camera was at the worst possible angle to get the full-on whiffing of the move. The camera was like just right there, facing the corner where Charlotte was jumping off, and the Iconics are sort of holding each other's hands as they usually do. And Charlotte literally just flips and lands right on their arms, and everyone bumps. That's a shame. I don't like that. That I didn't like. Billie Kay and Peyton could have come in a little closer as well. Anyway, match ends with a figure eight by Charlotte on Peyton, and Becky and Charlotte celebrate in the ring. We get a New Day segment where basically the New Day takes over their interview that was scheduled with Renee Young. Kofi Kingston puts on a wig. He's wearing a suit with a bow tie, and he puts on an old-timey broadcasting accent, calls himself Kramer Kingdom, something like that. And he conducts the interview. It was short, entertaining, funny. God bless the New Day. Never split them up. We see a replay of Miz's announcement on WWE.com that he's ready to face Daniel Bryan, that he's accepting his challenge for SummerSlam. And followed by another segment where Charlotte and Becky are backstage after their match. Charlotte is super hyped. She says, man, we work so good together. We're such a good team. And she's really, really hyper. But then Becky sort of brings it down. It's like, yeah, we're a good team, but in a week, in a little over a week, we're going, it's going to be another story, isn't it? She sort of brought everything back down to earth and was, ooh. Becky's serious, man. She loves her buddy, but she wants to win. I like this fire. I like it. Next, we have an AJ Styles segment. We start with a recap of Samoa Joe's killer promo from the week before. AJ, he starts off. He says, when you get into in the ring, there's a lot of trash talking. There's a lot of manhood being tested. Phrasing. And sometimes it gets personal. Joe made it personal when he started talking about his family. And he said, I am the greatest for my family, but that doesn't make me special. As parents, we all make sacrifices. He says, I'm on the road a lot. I miss Little League games. I miss birthdays. My wife is basically a single parent. You want to be there for your kids. You want to be the guy who's going to pick them up off the ground when they fall and they're crying. You want to console them. You want to be there for them. But this is the sacrifice that I'm doing to give my children everything they need. Everything they could possibly need. I'm doing this for them. And I'm sure as every parent listening could relate to this to a certain extent. He says, that's what pisses me off, Joe. My wife, my kids. AJ talked about when, briefly when they would share cockroach-infested apartments and share stale pizza with each other, establishing the fact that they've had a friendship. He said, with what you said last week, all bets are off. This friendship is out the door. You went too far. I can guarantee you one thing. I will be walking out of SummerSlam. You will not. It was a good promo. Actually, it was AJ Styles' best promo in months. And it wasn't a mind-blowing promo. It wasn't anything on the level of Samoa Joe or what Randy Orton did recently in a previous episode of SmackDown. But AJ has been so stale as far as his promo work goes. He's been really, really average. It lacked fire. It lacked energy. Sorry if you hear my dog. Don't worry about it. It's probably just the mail carrier. There was just something missing. Just a little something that... But then we had it here. You could tell it was coming from a real place. A place of emotion, of feeling. There was something real about what AJ was talking about. So this was good. Again, nothing mind-blowing, but it was miles better than what he's been doing recently. We see Lana warming up backstage after this. Rusev comes up to her and he says, Lana, what you said last week, you're right. I need to be here, be more supportive to you. Again, why did they wait an entire week to speak about this? Aren't they married? At least they could have texted each other to sort this out. But thank you for taking the time to sort this out on screen for us, Rusev. I appreciate that. So he says, I'll go out with you for your rematch against Zelina Vega. And then Aiden English arrives, and he apologizes to Lana, and he says, "Look, I had nothing but the best intentions. I did not want to screw up. I'm sorry. I'm nothing without you guys." And Rusev forgives him. He says, "Fine, we forgive you. Let's go to the ring." And as Aiden starts to follow, Rusev turns around and says, "No, Aiden, you're going to wait here, though. I forgive you, but it's best if you stay backstage." Aiden sort of doesn't care for that decision much, but that's the situation. So that leads us into Lana versus Zelina Vega. This wasn't very good. I did not like this. There's a lot of soft offense. Look, yes, Lana is improving. Lana's improving. You can't say the opposite, but man, oh man, she has I like her suplexes that she's been pulling off. She did it little snappy. It was a little quick snap suplex that she does. I like it. But she overdid it a bit. It's like I'm doing it over and over again. And I get it. She's getting better. She's improving. But you know what? This isn't NXT. On the main stage, I'm not supposed to be looking at developmental talent. I'm supposed to be seeing people at the top of their game. I'm supposed to be looking at the best in the world. But this wasn't very good. The ending happens, and basically, to me, the ending was an echo of the entire match. There's distractions happening, Almas is distracting the ref, but Rusev runs him over, right? There's more distractions. Lana goes to the top rope. As she's doing that, Aiden English runs down the aisle, the ramp, and he charges. And I got to give him props. He charges Almas, and he charges him hardcore. Like, he really runs into him, rams him into the ring and he rams him towards the post where Lana is climbing. And I guess the spot was he was supposed to ram him so hard that Lana was supposed to fall off. But what happens is that he rams him, but awkwardly, and it sort of just hits like Lana's ankle. And Lana waits like what feels like 60 million seconds before selling the bump. Not the bump. Well, yeah, before. Anyway, she waits like 60 million seconds before selling, then tumbles off. Zelina hits the double knees in the corner, cover, pin. That's all she wrote. And I'm okay with Zelina and Lana not wrestling each other anymore. I'm fine with that. That was messy. It was messy, and it wasn't good. The women can do so much better. That's the thing. And I don't want to sound condescending, because like I Lana is learning. She obviously doesn't want to be just a valet for her entire career, and I respect that. But there's something frustrating about seeing this match when, women like Naomi and Asuka are being sidelined right now, and they could be delivering excellent matches, It's just kind of frustrating. I don't want Rusev Day to be broken up. I don't know what they're doing with this, but man, Rusev Day as a trio looks great. It works for Rusev to have like an entourage like this, his beautiful wife, his awkward looking best friend who can sing. Let's not forget that the whole Rusev Day thing worked because not only because of Rusev's natural charm and in-ring ability, but because of Aiden English as well. And just added that level that took it over the top with the singing. The Rusev Day chance happened because of that. I wouldn't want him to disappear. I don't want them to fight. Not now. Not now. There's an interesting dynamic to explore with these three right now. I think they should keep pushing that. I'm afraid for Aiden English at the same time. Like if he gets out of Rusev Day, what are they going to do with him? That's what I'm afraid of, because he doesn't have, the typical casting of a WWE superstar. And we know how Vince can be with how his wrestlers look. Like Aiden he's pale, man. He's pale. He's more than pale. Like I'm pale. I'm very white. I'm very pale. I have trouble tanning. But Aiden English is on a whole other level. Like he's in levels of gray. It's not white, it's levels of gray. He has a reverse tan. That's what he has. It's the opposite of what a tan is. Instead of becoming golden and bronze, he's becoming gray and milky, chalky. I love Aiden. This is all out of love. I want him to stay. I think he brings something unique to the roster. And he brings something unique to Rusev Day. Shinsuke Nakamura is backstage. Best segment of the night here, right here, folks. He's talking to Renee Young about Jeff Hardy. Then suddenly R-Truth and Ty Dillinger arrive. R-Truth comes over, starts talking to Renee, and he says, look, you know what? I want a shot at the U.S. title. And to get that shot, I'm going to do what every competitor here has to do, and that is pin Carmella in the ring. I like that because I don't know how self-aware it was, how self-referential it was, if this was a rib on the writing staff, but that's some introspection right there. Like if it's really self-referential. Ty says, no. Ty jumps in and says, no. If you want to pin Shinsuke Nakamura, and he goes like this, he's like, no. You have to deal with this guy, He's right there. And R-Truth sort of looks and is like, I'm not going to fight Renee in the ring. Confused R-Truth is funny. And then Shinsuke says something in Japanese to R-Truth that offends him. He goes, oh my God. And Ty says, what did he say? R-Truth says, I can't repeat that in public. And you know what, Renee? My match with Carmella is off. I'm going to fight Shinsuke Nakamura instead. This was so well produced. It was well done. It was funny. I like this combination of Ty and R-Truth. If they're going to keep pushing R-Truth as this, wacky, confused guy, having a straight man that has great comedic timing like Ty does is perfect. Perfect. I liked it. It was a really funny spot. And short. Worked perfectly well. Pardon me. Segment with The Miz now. Byron Saxton is in the ring to interview The Miz, but The Miz isn't there. He's on location shooting Miz and Mrs. and Miz. He plugs his TV show, basically, that at first a lot of hard plugging here. I'm talking about how huge it was in the ratings, beating Total Bellas, and how social media knows that it was great. And while he was talking about social media, right, he was saying, the Twitter posts, everyone was going crazy, they were making GIFs, right? There were a lot of GIFs about this show. GIFs with a soft G. That got me thinking. All right. A couple of weeks ago, Tama Tonga was coming to the ring or leaving the ring during the G1, something like that. And he was babbling something. I don't quite remember, but he said, here, put that in a GIF with a soft G as well. So I think it's obvious now, it's confirmed that the heel way of pronouncing GIF is GIF. That's how you get your heat. It's not the right way. The baby faces pronounce it GIF. The heels pronounce it GIF. It's that simple. I think this is confirmed now. The Miz and Tama Tonga, that's what they do. So basically, folks, if you are a cruel, bad-intentioned individual looking out for his or herself only and revels in creating misery for others, then go ahead, pronounce it GIF. But the rest of us with a soul will pronounce it GIF. Anyway, when we finally start talking about the match, their upcoming match at SummerSlam, and he says, finally, I'm done sharing the spotlight with Daniel Bryan. I'm going to do this match, but after that, I'm done. I'm here night after night. How dare he call me soft, kind of thing. I will expose Daniel Bryan for who he is. He is beneath me. Then suddenly, channeling his deepest Stone Cold Steve Austin, Daniel Bryan appears out of nowhere and attacks The Miz on set. He goes right for him. Security then pounces on him. Then he fights off security, but he gets licks in on The Miz as well. Daniel Bryan is pounding on one of the security guys. Miz ends the whole thing when he cracks a vase full of flowers across Daniel Bryan's head. That was a cool visual. That was cool. And the Miztourage would have never let that happen. The Miztourage would have never let Daniel Bryan touch The Miz. They would have taken the beating. They would have been beat within an inch of their existence. But Miz would have got away. Daniel Bryan would not have touched him. I don't know who Miz is hiring as far as security goes, but man, I think he deserves a comp on his next invoice. I'm going to tell you guys another thing. I'm going to tell you this. I'm annoyed at the build to the Daniel Bryan Miz match. It's clear, we all know that this has been a long time in the making, almost 2 years in the making. From the minute Daniel Bryan retired and Miz, just going after him, taking jabs at him occasionally, that infamous Talking Smack segment, which was fantastic. All these situations helped to create this bubbling effervescence just underneath, waiting to explode. We thought we'd never see this match, but then Daniel Bryan gets cleared. What's the first thing that pops into everyone's mind is, oh man, all right, The Miz is going to get his ass kicked. And then we all started getting really, really excited. And they didn't jump into his feud with The Miz, even though they hinted at it, There were just these little moments. They hinted at it. There was no real interaction. It was just reminding us that Miz and Daniel Bryan don't like each other. So instead of jumping right into it, Daniel Bryan got his feud with Cass. He did his thing with Team Hell No and the Bludgeon Brothers. And now we're moving on to The Miz. I feel... Let me start over. It's not like I feel. The history of the feud, of their dislike, is the foundation of the feud, but is not the feud. It should serve as, like I said, the foundation upon which you build like new memories or contemporary reasons for them to want to fight each other instead of just calling back to the past. It's a show me, don't tell me situation. Let's take, for example, this may be an unfair example because it was lightning in a bottle, but nonetheless, let's take the example of Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. They're a tag team, they're best friends, they lose a match, Tommaso Ciampa destroys his partner, he goes off, he's angry, he's injured, disappears for the better part of a year. Johnny Gargano tries to rebuild himself in that year, where Tommaso Ciampa is completely absent. So we're not always talking about Ciampa, but Johnny's story is, becoming a singles wrestler, becoming the best singles wrestler that he can. And throughout, we don't see Ciampa for the better part of this year. There are moments, such as when Gargano is fighting Andrade Cien Almas, Zelina Vega throws a DIY t-shirt in the ring, and that completely throws him off. It makes him lose his focus and eventually contributes to him losing the match. You can tell that Johnny isn't over what Ciampa did to him. Now, when Ciampa does return and attack him, we understand the gravitas of the situation. We know, because of the history, that this is a big deal. This is something that we were waiting for. Exactly like Miz and Bryan, we're waiting for these guys to go at it. But what we also want is we want to get hype about it. We want to get behind Daniel Bryan. We want to hate Miz. We want WWE to give us all the possible reasons for us to want to see Miz get his teeth kicked in. So that's what they did in NXT with Ciampa and Gargano. Instead of simply talking about the past and then saying, well, we have unfinished business, let's set a fight and wait for that fight to come. They fed the flames. They added layers to the feud by having Ciampa be a complete asshole and Johnny reacting to this, getting passionate about it. So they had their confrontations, they had their promos, building to that extraordinary match that they had. So when we got to the match, not only did we have the history, but we had all these new elements that piled on top of each other to create this tower of pleasure, of fandom, of amazing moments. And this is what WWE is not doing with Daniel Bryan and Miz right now. They are not creating the circumstances, new circumstances, fresh circumstances for them to really get angry and mad at each other and for us to buy into it. The history is one thing. We need something more. Give me this. Indulge me in some fantasy booking here, if you don't mind. This is how I would have made the last few months work out. Okay, Daniel Bryan comes back. He does his thing with Big Cass. That's fine, and Miz is doing his thing on his end, and it just takes an occasional jab at Daniel Bryan. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Extreme Rules arrives, and the whole thing with Team Hell No happens as well, and Miz taking more shots at Daniel Bryan, exactly like he did, calling Kane a has-been, and calling the whole Team Hell No thing a nostalgia act, which it was. So all of this is fine. We get to Extreme Rules. Kane gets taken out by the Bludgeon Brothers because he's about to become mayor and is injured. So, he can't win. Instead of having Kane hobble down to the ring like he did and try to save Daniel Bryan, who's taking on two monsters all by himself, you have freaking Miz come down to the ring. Bryan is taking a beating, Kane is out. Miz comes, jumps up on the apron, and sticks out his hand over the top rope. And he tells Bryan, tag me in, man, I'll help. Daniel Bryan groggily looks at him and is like, oh, no way I'm doing this. So he keeps taking a beating. And Miz, he's hitting the top turnbuckle. He's getting the crowd pumped. He's saying, I'll help you, man. Just tag out. Tag out. I'll do this. I'm on your side. And you're like, why is he doing this? We don't understand. But at this point, the underdog, Daniel Bryan, needs some help. He's stuck. He's trapped by these two enormous monsters in a handicap match. Bryan reluctantly, after taking an enormous beating, tags Miz in. Miz cleans house. The audience goes nuts. Bryan rolls out. Miz is hitting moves right and left. He's taking out the Bludgeon Brothers. Daniel Bryan gets a little time to rest, gets back in the ring. They double team the Bludgeon Bros. They do their moves. Skull crushing finale into a yes lock. And that's it. They win the tag team titles. Miz and Daniel Bryan win the tag team titles. They stand in the ring with each other. They look at each other. They're each holding a title. Miz has a satisfied smirk on his face and he just rolls out of the ring. Daniel Bryan is sort of beside himself. We see them back on SmackDown and there's Miz TV. He says, I'd like to invite the other half of my tag team, my partner, Daniel Bryan, won't you come to the ring? And so that we can celebrate kind of thing. And Daniel Bryan comes and he's mad. You know, he's not okay with this. Daniel is, he's a little disgusted at the situation. And Miz starts off by saying, we worked hard, and, if there's one thing, if there's one thing, Daniel, is you have heart, but you can't do it yourself. Not in this kind of situation. That's why I was there. That's why I was there, because I'm always there, Daniel. You're always becoming relevant because of me. And then he goes off on this tangent that he's been doing, right? Recently, where he says, I'm tired of sharing my spotlight with you. You're just a bingo hall monkey. And me, I'm the superstar, and you keep rubbing off of me, and I'm sick of carrying you, essentially. He can even go back, start pulling out the history. Talk about when when Miz was Daniel Bryan's pro in NXT. That's the kind of stuff. And it just fans the flames. Paige comes out and says, look, you guys have to coexist. You're my champions. And at SummerSlam, you're going to defend your titles, and we're going to have a tournament to figure out who's going to be. And you do your tournament as usual. You do your tournament just as you would. Sanity, New Day, Usos, and The Bar. Just have your tournament. Then you get to SummerSlam. You have the match. Daniel Bryan and Miz lose because Miz just completely screws over Daniel Bryan. Bryan eats the pin, but because Miz was a complete asshat to him. And then that leads us into Hell in the Cell, which is the next pay-per-view. And guess who you put in the cell? That's how I would have done it. And it would have been much more compelling. And then, or don't put them in the cell. Drag this baby out. Have them skip the next pay-per-view. Maybe have Daniel do a hell of a stretcher job where he's really friggin' injured. Maybe Miz goes after his head or something, and now we get concerns about his neck and his concussions. Like, bring a little reality into it. Skip Hell in the Cell. Let's go to Survivor Series. Let's have a big, huge one-on-one at Survivor Series. Just drag this baby out. I think you're capable of doing it. If you want to think about the rumors and the innuendo and the dirt sheets, maybe you're saying to yourself, well, maybe one of the reasons that they're doing this is because Daniel Bryan, if the rumors are true that Daniel Bryan hasn't re-sign to WWE. Maybe they just want to get the match out of the way as quickly as possible, just in case he does decide to jump ship. I don't think he will, but you never know. And I'm saying that he won't jump ship, and that's not it's not because I'm a WWE stan, and that for me WWE is the end all of wrestling, and that anything else is subpar and not quality and irrelevant. No, I'm just saying I'd be surprised because he makes a lot of money there. But the important thing, regardless what he decides, whatever Daniel Bryan decides to do, if indeed he hasn't re-signed, whatever he does will no doubt make him happy. And as fans of Daniel Bryan, regardless of what we would like, oh, I'd like him to be in Ring of Honor. Oh, New Japan. Oh, he should work the Indies. That'd be awesome. Imagine him working with Marty Scurll. Yes, imagine all those dream matches. They're super easy to imagine. Not a problem. But this isn't a thing about taking sides again. It's not a thing about being pro WWE or pro Indies or pro New Japan. It's about, if we're fans of Daniel Bryan, if we like Daniel Bryan, then whatever Daniel Bryan decides to do is what's best for him. It's his happiness that is most important above anything else. So regardless of what you want as a fan, whatever Daniel decides to do is what should make you feel good, because then you'll be sure that he'll be happy. It's not a question about what you want, it's what he wants. Anyway, it's a lot of Daniel Bryan talk. We get Shinsuke Nakamura versus R-Truth. Next, R-Truth comes out and he does his entire What's Up song. Meanwhile, on Raw, Elias constantly gets interrupted during his performances. Truth is super explosive in this match. He looked great. He really looked great. He does a split-legged dodge at some point. He hits a really nice stinger splash. That was super cool. Nakamura twists him down into a triangle. That was super cool. Kinshasa for the win. R-Truth was all in, not to make a bad pun, but it's true. Like, he just, there was, talk about making the most out of the time that you have. That was amazing. We have the Bludgeon Brothers cutting a promo on the other tag teams. That leads us into their match against 3SK. We learn as the match goes on that the 3SK stands for Three Stupid Kids. It's a 3-on-2 situation. The Bludgeon Brothers against these three jabronis. Corey says that says Rowan took out the Roman Reigns starter kit and Taz Jr., which I thought was really funny, and the commentary team thought it was really funny as well. They all started corpsing. They tried not to laugh, but no, that was impossible. It's a squishy squish squash match for the Bludgeons. That's fine. That's what they're for. That's what they should do. Finally, we get to the main event, and the main reason we should all watch this edition of SmackDown: the New Day versus The Bar in the finals of the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, number one contender championship. No, wait, let me start over. In the finals of the WWE SmackDown Tag Team title number one contenders match tournament. I should write that shit down and not try to improvise it. It does. I end up sounding stupid. More stupid. This was a fantastic match. What a great match. Not just a match that was great for TV. Just a great match. Kofi's agility is on showcase early on in this match, but hits a wall when he tries to match up with Sheamus. And that was his mistake, deciding to go toe-to-toe with Sheamus, who looked so badass during that fight. Like, Sheamus is a huge dude. He's always been, but he just looked super aggressive. It's crazy how for his career, how great teaming with Cesaro has been. It's been fantastic for Sheamus. We buy him as a complete and legit badass. And he did it with Kofi tonight. With those huge elbows, he dumps Kingston to the outside. He hits a huge uppercut, European uppercut on the outside. It's so cool. There's so much great stuff here. Kofi at some point, he's your babyface in peril very, very early on in the match. Gets messed up by both Cesaro and Sheamus. Cesaro at some point is looking to flapjack him, but Kofi holds on to the top rope, so he's able to wiggle out of that. Hits the hot tag to Big E, who comes into a big reaction from the crowd. The crowd was into this the entire time. And surprise, surprise, because it was a great match. If you do great matches, people will be into it. That's shocking, isn't it? Big E hits some belly-to-belly overhead suplexes, belly-to-belly suplex as well. A Uranagi on Sheamus, covers and gets two. Kofi hits the SOS on Cesaro, and that gets a two as well. And here, the SOS, man, the SOS looks so good. Why is that a transitional move? It really looks good. It's kind of like, I was talking about this on Raw, on my Raw review yesterday. It's exactly like the Deep Six. The Deep Six looks powerful. It looks strong and hard. Why wouldn't these moves be finishers? The SOS looks like Kofi has just enough momentum to put anyone away when he pulls it off. It looks great. Why are these just transitional moves? I don't get it. Sheamus hits a nice rolling senton to Kofi on the outside. Like, Kofi was just a punching bag. He was Sheamus's B word. The Bar hit a double team driver on Big E, who gets who kicks out at two. And at this point, Sheamus is completely confounded. Like, he's got this blank stare where he's like, what do we have to do to end this? This is ridiculous. He doesn't understand. The psychology of this match was on par, was great storytelling. They're back with their heel tactics. Big E is your babyface in peril. Kofi is dead. We don't even see him. We don't know where he is. He's completely dead. There's a superplex. I like this spot. Cesaro sets Big E up for a superplex while Cesaro is going to the opposite corner on the top rope. So they're both on the top rope. Cesaro does the superplex on Big E, and then Sheamus jumps right off with a diving knee onto Big E. That was great. Goes for the cover, only gets two. Sheamus tries to get a clover leaf on Big E, but can't because Big E's legs are just too thick. They're too big. They're two big hams. No, they're not hams. They're bigger than the hams. They're the pig. The pig hasn't even been transformed into hams yet. Both of his legs are pigs. That's what they are. That's how thick and big they are. Finally, Big E gets the hot tag to Kofi. Again, another hot tag that the crowd is really into. Kofi does his, like his trust dive plancha that looks so reckless but amazing at the same time. He does it over the top rope onto the bar to the outside. Kofi goes back to the top. He does a double standing stomp on Cesaro, who's up. Like, Cesaro is literally standing up, and Kofi jumps off and stomps him onto his chest and falls back. Man, shouldn't that be the coup de grace? That looked awesome. That looked really, really cool. Trouble in Paradise is countered by Cesaro. He tags Sheamus back in. They do a double backbreaker on Kofi, who is your babyface in peril once again. Kofi does the bro kick, fights off both members of the Bar, tags Big E back in for another hot tag. They go for the midnight hour, but Cesaro runs up the ropes and just shoves Kofi off the top rope. That was so cool. So then they do like a double team white noise with Cesaro coming off the top rope, which he kind of didn't quite get all the contact on. Cesaro didn't quite pull it off exactly, But we forgive him because everything else was so fantastic. Go for the pin. They only get 2 on this. Cesaro puts a sharpshooter on Big E. In the meantime, Kofi is on the outside with Sheamus. He hits a tornado DDT off the barricade onto the floor. That was really cool. Kofi was on fire, man. Big E is crawling to the ropes as best as he can. And Cesaro reverses the sharpshooter into a crossface. And this is something that we see a lot of in New Japan. And that I'm glad, if this is the beginning of a trend in WWE, I am completely fine with this. The idea that if your submission move isn't working, you just transition into another one. This guy is about to break out of the sharpshooter. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Then I'll just put a crossface on him instead. Cesaro transitioned very, very nicely. Cesaro can do anything he wants in the ring regardless. I think, he's one of the most talented guys in the world. He's strong, he's agile, he's technical, he's powerful, he can do it all. I mean, there's no reason for him to not be able to pull this off. And it makes sense. Psychology-wise in a ring, it makes sense. If your move isn't working, if your guy is about to reach the rope to break the move, try something else. Then you're like, oh, no, okay, I'll do this instead. It just makes sense. Anyway, so the sharpshooter's reversed into a crossface, but Big E hulks up, friggin' deadlifts Cesaro into position for the Midnight Hour. Kofi tags himself in, jumps off. They do the Midnight Hour. That's it. The New Day are your new number 1 contenders for the SmackDown tag team titles. They will be facing the Bludgeon Brothers at SummerSlam. Man, tag team wrestling is so good. It really, really is good. This was fantastic. This is what kept SmackDown this week from being completely forgettable. This was really, really something else. And you know what? I don't want to harp on the negatives because this was really good and it was a great way to end the show. I got excited. The minute that I realized that I looked at the clock when the bar were doing their entrance. I was like, oh my, they had 30 minutes. It was like 9:30 when this match started. I was like, this is great. They have 30 minutes for a match. These two teams. This is these are elite guys. These are pros. This is going to be great. And it was great. Goddamn commercials, though. I know you guys in the United States, I'm from Canada, right? I know you guys in the United States get the picture-in-picture thing where you still see what's going on in the ring while the commercial is rolling, but we don't get that here. So it takes me out of the match so hard, and I didn't want to be taken out of the match. I got mad. I was like, no, stay on this. I want to see the whole thing. I don't want to pause. That was aggravating. So as I was saying, I don't want to harp on the negatives because this was really good. But imagine, last week I was saying that I felt on my SmackDown review that I felt that the tag team tournament knockout matches that they had were just there, right? They didn't feel like they had real stakes. They were just like matches, and they happened, and they were all really short. And there was no drama being built into this tournament. And we've been so spoiled as wrestling fans with tournaments recently. I'm not even going to talk about the G1. Let's just talk about WWE. Going back to the May Classic last year and both UK tournaments. The Cruiserweight tournament that happened on 205 Live when the belt was vacated after Enzo left. These were all great tournaments where everyone just gave it their all because there's real and legit stakes. If I get eliminated here, I don't have a chance. I don't get to face the Bludgeon Brothers. I lose an opportunity at the tag titles. And the knockout matches in this tournament were like, meh. They just happened. You know, it was nothing all that extraordinary. But, I mean, this match was fantastic. But just imagine, if they had given the tag teams more time, if the tag teams had been given the opportunity to create really thrilling, dramatic matches where you felt like they were giving their all because the SmackDown Tag Team Championships are really, really important and they want to win it. Imagine if the two matches previous to this had the same feeling to it. This would have been an even better match because of the drama, that the build up to it. It would have been even better. But this is just me saying stuff. This match was great. I'm not going to complain about that. I would have liked the tournament to be more dramatic, but it ended on such a high note, I can't be all that mad. But imagine how much better it would have been if this kind of competitive match had happened in the 2 weeks prior. Anyway, okay. I think we're going to wrap things up for today, folks. You know where to find me, or do you? You can find me at tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. That's my YouTube channel. This is where this video is being posted right now. This is where you're viewing it. So you can follow me there. You can, go and do the subscribe thing, the little notification bell. Leave a like, leave a comment, share the videos. It's one thing to sub, it's one thing to watch, but sharing, man, sharing is caring, is what I've been told. So why don't you do that? What's stopping you, really? You're at this point of the video. You've made it to this point. Why not just show it to someone else? You can also find me on Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes. I am there quite a bit. Guys, thank you so very, very much for joining me on this SmackDown Live review. Thanks so much. If you're watching this on August 8th, remember tonight, FightfulSelect.com, right after NXT, I do my 205 Live NXT combo review. Tomorrow, Thursday, G1 recap, weekly recap, number 4. One of the last ones I'm going to do because the G1 is coming to a conclusion. Guys, again, thank you so very much. And I'll see you.